Hello, welcome to my car, and quite possibly the weirdest get ready with me anyone's ever done. I've got a birthday party to attend right after work, so you join me in the car park as I get ready, and it's now early June, so I thought it was about time we did like a mid-year check-in book freak out thing. I'm a millennial, so we're getting ready in my car and multitasking. That's what we do. I am getting some weird looks. Weird because I'm talking to myself. Oh, I'm doing my hair in the car is another question. Whilst I do have a car full of books, none of the books I'm going to be talking about in today's video. So, B-roll, I guess. Let's run through the questions from the book freakout tag and then have a chat about my reading more generally. So, my best book of the year, what was it? The People Want to Know. It was Sound for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. Read it like a couple of weeks ago. Cried all the way through. Like, I've heard people talking about it for ages and just thought it can't be that good. It can't be that good. It is that good. I have been working in a hospital all day. If you think I'm putting this whole can in my hair to feel human again, you've got another thing coming. So, Sound for the Wild Built made me think a lot about radical empathy, but like not just for other people, for ourselves. And I'm honestly thinking of making a whole video about Becky Chambers and radical empathy. It's been on my mind. I've been researching. We'll talk about it another time. Best sequel I have read, the temptation to say the sequel to that book, which is called A Prayer for the Crown Shy, is so strong. But actually, I think the consistently best sequels, like sequel, trequel, quadruple I've read so far this year is the Mirror Visitor series by Christelle Dabo, translated from the French by Hildegard Searle, which is all about a world where the Earth split into these floating lumps of planet, and each lump is protected by a family spirit who is like a god, but then there's a big god, and the plot is thickening. It is really cozy fantasy. I think it's supposed to be for children, but like it's not for children. And like the stakes are just getting raised so well every time. Like at first, it'd be politically bad if people found out about our marriage. Second, people who oppose me are going missing. Third one, I've just started, and it seems like Big God is on the scene now. What new releases have I read so far this year? Honestly, we all know I'm not a new release girly. The only new thing I've read so far this year is The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty, and I feel like she had a debut a couple of years ago that people started off saying they loved, and then as soon as the tide started turning, everyone started trashing. I wasn't anticipating this book. I wasn't thinking, I'll have to get to that because I've never read any of her other stuff. But I got a free trial of an audiobook app. I think it was called Bookly or Book, I don't know, not important, but you got so many hours free in this free trial, and I looked for the longest book I could find because I'm thrifty like that, and basically what I found was The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi, which, if you are unaware, is a historical fantasy adventure book following a female pirate captain on the Indian Sea, as she gets dragged into this plot to go and find the daughter of one of her crewmates who died in a way that she has felt guilty about for many a year. But then she starts getting blackmailed, and then gins start turning up, and honestly, shit just goes left, and it was very clearly setting up for it to be a series. And you know what? It was enjoyable enough that if I can also find them for free, I'll get them as presents for my birthday. I probably would continue with the series, but I'd have to buy a copy of the first book because I couldn't have them all on my shelf without the first one. Most anticipated, like I said, don't keep an eye out for kind of what books are coming soon, but books that I am excited about maybe buying for myself, it's anticipated for me. I think I'll probably pick up the next instalment of Christopher Paolini's new series. The first one was To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. The second one is called something about fractals. You know, for the man who brought us Eragon, fuck what y'all say, fuck the haters, I had really high expectations, and you know what? Call him DHL, because he delivered. It was a really solid space opera Sci-fi. Was it a bit ridiculous? Yes. Do I give a fuck? No. That's not going wavy. It looks a bit shit, doesn't it? I'm also looking forward to Kirsty Logan's new memoir / musings on queer motherhood called The Unfamiliar. I think with Kirsty Logan's writing style, that is going to be phenomenal. And you know, queer motherhood is something I'm going to have to do eventually, so why not learn from an expert? And we don't have to write Rush. Triple slay. I'm also looking forward to the paperback release of The Cloisters, which is apparently like a dark academia thing, which we assume we love. I've not really read much, but it seems like it would be for me. I've also written Children Greenery. No, I've got no idea what that is, but apparently when I made this list earlier, I was strongly anticipating whatever the fuck that is. What was my biggest disappointment this year? So glad you asked. Gleanings by Neal Shusterman. I loved the Ark of a Scythe series. I loved that it was, what if everything goes right? People are still going to be awful. Like, not too distant far future utopia turned dystopia turned space opera? Bizarre. I was so looking forward to the short story collection that was going to go along with it, set in the world, written by lots of different people. And the stories were just shocking. Like, just bad. Like, there was a story, like, it's like a sci-fi, but it's grounded in, like, the realms of possibility. There is a story where one of the sides kills a family and takes their dog, just because he's allowed to do that shit. And then, like, the dog murders him, like, over and over again. Obviously, because he's a scythe, they think it's accidental and they keep bringing him back to life. And the dog just finds another way to kill him. So he straight up buries the dog alive on the beach. And the dog, like, gets dug up and revived. Because it's like, hey, that's a Scythe's dog. You've got to revive the fucking Scythe's dog. And I'm like, babe, just clean the dog. And then he finds out that it's like a super breed of like highly intelligent dog. Like that someone bred for military purposes. I don't know. All I know is that is not what I've come to expect, shall we say, from Neal Shusterman. He can do better. Or he can pick people to write better for his world. Massive disappointment. I've also DNF'd quite a few books. What was my biggest surprise? Positively, like, it wasn't a surprise, but Lolly Willows by Sylvia Townsend Warner is a classic, modern classic about a woman who throws off her familial responsibilities and expectations of her and goes to live a cottagecore life with the devil in the woods. Like, Addie LaRue could never. I've tried to read this so many times and gotten like a third of the way in and just like put it down, I've forgotten about it, or like went into a reading slump because of something else, and like just never committed to it. So right at the start of the year, committed, and one of my favourite books of all time. Like, I knew it would be, I just had to surprise myself by finishing the fucker, but finished it, I have. I know this eyeshadow is going to last 0.4 seconds before I inevitably sweat it off. But no one can say I didn't try. Favourite new author? I'm going to cheat by giving you two authors, neither of whom are new to me, which I know is not the point of that question. So, The Rebirth of Christopher Paolini, as I was saying, worked for me. It ticked the boxes. So I love him as a new sci-fi author. I also reread Eragon and loved that. Like, love bringing back my childhood. The other author I want to talk about is Selva Almada, who's an Argentinian author, writes in Spanish, and it is translated by Charcoal Press's illustrious translators. Just really continues to hit it out the park, and I fell in love with her non-fiction as well this year. So, truly a queen, a king and a queen among peasants. Books that made me cry. I do not often cry books, and obviously we talked about A Psalm for the Wild Bill already. The only other book that made me like very emotional this year was Our Wives Under the Sea, which I read fairly early on. And it follows two wives. One goes on a deep sea underwater submarine mission thing. The other is waiting for her, and she comes back 6 months later because she got stranded beneath the waves. And she came back changed. Oh, I've got no way of fixing that. Okay. Intriguing. This gets worse and worse with every move I make. I'm not a fan. Yes, very beautiful ending. Very emotion. Totes emotion. Would highly recommend it for the gays and the gals out there. A book that made me happy. I have left that blank. You know what? We'll say my reread of Aragon made me happy. Yes, it absolutely did. Loved like seeing those fantasy tropes like superimposed for a young audience. What a lovely way to be introduced to those tropes. Honestly, was blown away by how much I enjoyed it, how good of a children's book it is. So it was very nostalgic. It took me back to those good old times of having no friends and being clearly an undiagnosed autistic child. But we move. The most beautiful book I've read so far this year has been Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Honestly, flawless writing style. Absolutely ethereal, haunting, suits the setting of Piranesi work really, really well. It is about a man trapped in a hall full of Piranesi-esque statues and just like vibing. Someone else arrives in the hall who should not be there because he's the only guy who is there, and it's him. Investigate. Books I still need to read. Right. At the start of this year, I said I wanted to read 23 books. So let's have a look at my reading journal that I've definitely not kept up with. 23 and 23 on page 11 and 12. I think I might do a video of like catching up on this thing because God knows I need to. Right. I wanted to read Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. Haven't. Nettleback by Nat Reeve. Started it. Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. Not read. Stowaway to Mars by John Wyndham. Not read. Carrie Soto's Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Not started. Girl Woman Other by Bernardine Evaristo. Did read it. Marjorie by Alex Phoebe. Read it. Animals of Lockwood Manor. Haven't read it. Fifth Season. Haven't read it. Your Silence Will Not Protect You by Audre Lorde. Haven't read it. The Question Mark. Haven't read it. Claudia Knows by Elena Knows by Claudia Pinero, translated by Francis Riddle. Have read it. Virginia Woolf's Orlando. Haven't read it. Crime and Punishment. Haven't read it. The Lamplighters by Emma Stonex. Have read it. The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. Have started it today. The One in White by Wilkie Collins. Haven't read it. Priory the Orange Tree. Haven't read it. Passion by Nella Larson. Have read it. Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. Haven't read it. Eye of the World, Robert Jordan. Haven't read it. The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. Haven't read it. I don't feel like that's 23. So I think that was like, what, 6 that I had read? Wow. Go Lauren, give us nothing. So the other 17, I suppose, would be need to reads. So I've read like 64 books so far this year. That sounds pretty good, bear in mind I didn't read for 2 months. But a lot of the books I've read have been under 50 pages because they are the Penguin little 70th anniversary editions. And also some 404 Inklands books, and also I did a whole video about reading books under 200 pages right at the start of the year. So, you know, short, but more than I normally would have, so I guess swings and roundabouts. It does make me feel less worried about getting to 100 for the rest of the year. I feel like that's quite doable now. And I'm starting to pick up some chunkier books. So much has happened. We got kicked out of the car park because they were closing up the gates. I checked Storygraph. My phone got so hot and overheated because I forgot we are no longer in May. And apparently pixels just don't work after May. So, out of all the books I've read so far, 75% have been under 300 pages. Don't love that statistic, I'm not going to lie. I have read 12,000 pages though. So, you know, well on track. My goal for pages is about 20,000 pages, so I think that is likely to happen, which we love. And I've also had a brainwave about how to judge tired. Wired. Best month was May for reading, worst month was April. Surprising. Thought January would be the best. 32% of what I've read has been non-fiction, which is lovely. That's much closer to my goals. So that's everything I can think of to update you about. Feeling good. Feeling really good about my reading. Feeling slightly less good about the look. But we move. I need to walk across town and go and get our table sorted because the host is going to be late. So thank you for joining me because I felt very, very anxious because I'm not going to know anyone except my best friend at this party. So thank you for getting ready with me, and I hope your reading has gone so far, and if not, still got 6 months to sort it out. Okay, have a good one. Love you, bye.